What is up, guys? Rick Kakas here, keeping you up to date with the latest Destiny 2 news and information. And today, while everyone was distracted by the solar eclipse, Bungie dropped a brand new Destiny 2 trailer, the official Destiny 2 launch trailer. And so in this video, we're going to break that trailer down and analyze all of the goodies it contains, stuff that a lot of you otherwise would have missed. And so, let's get started. Now, the first scene of the trailer shows Ghaul being talked to by Grandpa Cabal, and then something really interesting. A prisoner is lowered from the ceiling, and it's the Speaker. I thought this guy was dead. During the assault on the tower, you actually go to rescue the Speaker, and his entire Speaker headquarters is just demolished, fallen off the edge. And again, I assumed, well, there goes the Speaker, but no, Ghaul has actually captured him. Now, this is really interesting because the Speaker certainly has a connection with the Traveler. The fact that Ghaul has this guy captive is not great for the Guardians. It means that Ghaul has even more information about the Traveler than he otherwise would. Moving on from there, we have another really interesting clip that just lasts for a couple of seconds. You see a large fallen ship in combat with other nearby ships. Now, in the background, you guys can clearly see that is the Shard of the Traveler, as seen right here, that is a main landmark in the European Dead Zone. So this takes place in the European Dead Zone. But if we look at the ships that presumably are actually being attacked by and attacking this fallen ship, those aren't Guardian ships. Those are actually the Cabal carriers. So, that's right. The Fallen in this short clip are not attacking us, they're not attacking the Guardians, they are attacking the Cabal. And this opens up some pretty crazy possibilities. We know for a fact that the Fallen have some sort of connection with the Traveler. In fact, according to the lore, the Traveler was actually with the Fallen and then left them to go and be with humanity. And ever since, they've been trying to gain its light back. So them seeing the Cabal do what the Cabal do to the Traveler, ensnare it, and essentially try to control it and take it over for themselves, the Fallen are not going to be happy with that. And there is a real possibility that they, honestly team up with humanity to try and fight off the Cabal. Or even not necessarily team up with humanity, but just fight the Cabal to free the Traveler. And this little clip definitely supports that. Now, moving on from there, we have this clip here showcasing Guardians sneaking through the last city, presumably to assault Ghaul and hopefully defeat him and free the Traveler. They also then talk within the trailer about that being the plan, with Ikora saying that an all-out assault on the last city would be suicide, there's a huge chance we don't come back, and Cayde saying,
"It's worth it."
Now, the reason I'm mentioning all of this is because this really lends credence to the fact that the assault on the last city and the defeat of Ghaul will be within the story campaign. Now, that may sound obvious to some of you, but a lot of other peoples do believe that the assault on the last city and the killing of Ghaul will be Destiny 2's raid. But the fact that we have multiple cutscenes around this assault on the last city really suggests that it is within the campaign. Now, moving on from there, another really interesting clip, this one for just a second, showcases Guardians speeding on their Sparrows throughout a landscape. Now, what exactly is this landscape is really the interesting question here, because you can clearly see they're speeding towards essentially one of two things. Either a massive Cabal fortress or the last city. That could be one of the outer walls of the last city. It looks definitely a little bit Cabal to me, but then it begs a question, where exactly are they? The plants and the sky definitely suggest that they're in the European Dead Zone, and if that's the case, that's pretty crazy. That in the European Dead Zone, the exact same place that we've set up humanity's last refuge with the farm, also houses a massive Cabal base. I don't know if the farm location was the best idea if that is the case, so that is pretty crazy. After that, we have Guardians on what looks like Io jumping through a very interesting door. I'm sure a lot of you guys coming from Destiny 1 recognize that gate. It's the Vault of Glass entrance. It really is. There's no question about it. However, is this the new Vault of Glass? Is this the new raid we're seeing here? Well, not necessarily. Firstly, there's only 2 Guardians. There's a huge giveaway that's not a raid scenario. But this is really interesting. Will there be, just within Destiny 2, more Vault of Glass style locations? As in, will there be these Vex underground structures that we can go in and essentially raid for loot without potentially being an actual raid? This could just be an area, like an explorable area on Io. It could be, actually, interestingly, it could be a lost sector, and that there's different Vex lost sectors hidden around Io that are kind of similar to those raid-like areas, those underground structures where you go in and fight a boss and gain some sweet loot. So that is quite interesting. But it also showcases a very interesting fact, and that is that the Vex are pretty heavily represented in Destiny 2. Judging from all that we've experienced in the beta, all that we've seen from the promotional material, there is a lot of Cabal, that's obvious, but then there's second most Vex. You see a lot of Vex in this promotional material. And there's not too much Fallen, and there's very little Hive. There's been just a couple of instances of gameplay of players fighting the Hive. So that's pretty interesting that the Vex have a main part to play in Destiny 2 when compared to other factions, judging from the promotional material. And continuing on from there, something a little bit neat here, you can actually see an Omolon grenade launcher. I don't think I've seen one of these before, but you can see the Omolon lettering within its magazine. It's great to see all of the different foundries represented in all of the different guns. In Destiny 1, we had a bunch of missing gun types. Certain foundries weren't represented in the different gun types, but in Destiny 2, they really seem to have improved that. But continuing on from there, we have something a little more interesting, and that is an entirely new, never before seen exotic weapon in use. Check it out. This hunter here is holding something, as you can see, that is very out of the ordinary. This looks like potentially a linear fusion rifle, essentially a railgun, but a very interesting version of it. And it looks even crazier and even more exotic when we see the first person angle. I mean, come on guys, that is just screaming exotic weapon, and it does even more so when you see it fire. I'm going to slow down the gameplay in the background as much as possible, and you can see it shoots some sort of orb or beam of light that explodes outwards and damages all enemies nearby. That is absolutely crazy. That looks so fun to use. It's honestly reminding me somewhat of a Telesto. Like when you'd shoot enemies, it seems to maybe stick the enemy for just a little bit before exploding and damaging all enemies nearby, which looks just so sweet. However, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't mention that there's another possibility going on here. Instead of the weapon itself causing this explosion, it could actually be that the weapon is void and you're shooting the void shield of the Minotaur and that is exploding. In Destiny 2, any energy weapon, any elemental weapon does bonus damage against shields, but if you match the element, so if it's a solar gun shooting a solar shield, that shield will explode outwards, damaging nearby enemies. This could be the explosion effect of a void weapon shooting a void shield. The Minotaur does clearly have a void shield. But regardless of which scenario is actually happening, I think the look of this weapon is still very much saying that it's an exotic. Now moving on from there, we see a really interesting piece of gameplay here of players in the massive Cabal superstructure that we've seen in trailers before. This is an interesting piece of gameplay because they're in vehicles. Previously, we've only seen players running around this structure, but the fact that they're in vehicles, the fact that this location supports vehicles, means that it's huge. It's large enough to support Cabal tanks, and it's not an enclosed area that's infantry only. So this is really interesting. Is this actually going to be another, like, essentially planet? Is this going to be another area that you can go and you can explore, and is similar to the Dreadnought? There's actual patrol missions and so on in this Cabal superstructure? That just got a whole lot more plausible by seeing this piece of gameplay, because it's clearly quite large. Next up, however, we have another new exotic being revealed, but this time it's an armor piece. Now, in this piece of gameplay, you can see the Warlock putting down a rift, either healing or empowered, with a Titan in the background, and the Hunter is zooming around on a pike. But if we take a closer look at the Titan here, firstly, he is just decked out in so much cool stuff. The helmet looks fantastic. The chest piece looks fantastic. It actually has a gold accent around the waistband. Like, that almost looks exotic. But if anything here is exotic, it would definitely be the leg armor. The leg armor looks just insane. It is clearly like more extravagant and different than the rest of the armor being represented. Now, there is a chance that this is just a legendary, or perhaps even a special event legendary. Like, for example, this could be the Iron Banner leg armor, or even potentially the Trials of the Nine, or new Trials of Osiris leg armor as well. Or heck, you know, if we're throwing out possibilities, this could be the new Raid leg armor. I don't know, but the clear factor here is that it looks pretty extravagant. And from this angle, you can also see it looks so crazy. It's got these glowing circular hinges around the knees, and it's definitely giving me a Peregrine Greaves vibe, although clearly it isn't the same as the Peregrine Greaves. Now, if I am wrong and this is just a normal legendary piece of armor, the fact that normal legendaries can be that cool is frankly just as awesome. Now, lastly, the last clip that I definitely wanted to point out here that was just really sweet in the trailer showcases some Guardians jumping at what looks like a massively sized Hobgoblin. Now, when I first saw this and I first took this screenshot, I thought that it was just trickery, that the Hobgoblin was very much in the foreground and the Guardians were just in the background. But if you look closely, you can actually see the missile go in between the Hobgoblin's gun. Like, it goes on the foreground of the Hobgoblin's gun and actually illuminates it. So this means there is no trickery. This means that this Hobgoblin is this big. There is a massive, towering Hobgoblin in the game. You thought Hobgoblins were bad enough? Now we've got massive, giant Hobgoblins. Oh, great. Even better. Even better to get sniped with a giant Hobgoblin. Damn it, Bungie! But in any event, post-traumatic stress from the Vault of Glass Hobgoblins aside, this does look sweet, and this could actually be the boss that we find at the end of the Lost Sector or mission or whatever event leads us down that Vault of Glass entrance that we saw before. Again, the Vex are pretty highly represented here. We see a lot of bosses in promotional material, so this is quite exciting. And so guys, that is it for the trailer breakdown. That is all of the stuff I found within the trailer. If you guys saw anything else really interesting, definitely let me know in the comment section down below. Now, if you guys enjoyed this video and found it interesting, please remember to support it by simply liking and especially sharing. Now, if you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you guys want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickKakis. That's linked in the description down below, as is my Twitch channel, which you can also follow. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.